Welcome to War of the Roses. We're going to go through this tasting kit and taste each 10 of these recipes and let you know which one we like the best. And at the end of the series, we're going to put the 4 best ones in a blind. Well, welcome back. This is episode 3 into our journey of the Four Roses tasting experience. There are 10 samples that give us an idea of how Four Roses blends their bourbon. Tonight, we're going to do OBSF, which is recipe 5, and OESV, which is recipe 6, if you're following along. I've been watching some videos from Brent Elliott, the master distiller there, and I try not to watch them ahead of the show, but usually after the show to kind of see, like, did I have any idea what I was talking about? Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. So first up, OBSF, recipe 5. Now it says on here this is still mash bill B, because we're still in the OBs, which is the 60% corn, 35% rye, 5% malted barley, so a high rye mash bill. The yeast strain here is F. I know that's a different yeast strain. And the tasting notes are delicate rye and mint. Well, we've not seen mint before in this, so the delicate rye I'll appreciate. The mint, you know, I like a good peppermint as much as anybody. But then there's some mints I don't like, so, what kind of mint? All right. Now, I did pick up that rye right away. It was the first thing I picked up. And then you get the Four Roses Floral. This one is not quite as strong as a couple of the other ones. I gotta really get my nose in there. Some sweetness, some oak. Yeah, but I would say rye and then followed by floral. Cheers. This is definitely not as sweet as the OBSO, which was my favorite so far. I would say it's less rye spice than OBSQ, which was the recipe 4. But there's, besides the lighter rye, I'm not a real fan of the taste. It's just, I get that light rye, I get very little sweetness, a fair amount of baking spices, and some dry fruit, I would say, in that order. Rye, baking spices, dry fruit. If the fruit was a little more prevalent and a little sweeter, I think I would like this a lot more. Let's take another sip. On the second sip, I definitely pick up more of the rye spice. I can tell a baking spice from a rye spice because a baking spice, you get that kind of nutmeg, clove, cinnamon flavors. The rye spice is more savory than sweet. It's pumpernickel bread, rye bread, more of that nutty kind of spicy flavor versus being more on the fall spice kind of side of it. It's not bad. Nothing in this case I've tasted bad. Now, I did give the I think recipe 4 a 5.0 out of 10. Didn't mean I hate it. It just mean I probably wouldn't buy it if it was, you know, a limited release and that was the mash. Well, it's not a bad sipper as far as a high rye bourbon goes. I get a nice Kentucky hug out of it. The pepper is not too bad. The pepper doesn't linger in the finish. What goes on the palate pretty much goes into the finish. You get that rye spice, you get that dry fruit, and it continues. And it's moderately long. It stays with you for a while. I would say probably my favorite thing is probably the finish over the palate. So we're going to put OBSF away and take a break, get some water, and we're going to come back for OESV. We're changing mash bills, and that's going to change the flavor because this is a lower rye. We'll be right back. Now in part 2 of our third episode, we've got the OESV, and I've been looking forward to this because in the E series we're into the lower rye percentages. So this is mash bill E, and it is 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% malted barley. Yeast strain V as in Victor. The tasting notes are delicate fruit and caramel. Wow, I like this already. I haven't even opened it. I have a lot of hopes for these E's that I'll really like them. And then, of course, it doesn't matter unless they come out with limited release in the fall or late fall with one of the OE versions. Because that would certainly, I believe, would be my favorite. From everything that I've read, that the OE series is going to be something I'm going to like the best. You know, I did like one of those OBs. Recipe number 3. I'd buy that too. Let's take another sip of water. So, OESV. Everything's the same except the mash bill. And they're saying it's delicate fruit. Oh, wow. I mean, there's nothing delicate about the aroma. I get a lot of kind of light, medium fruit. Peaches, pears, apricots, that kind of light to medium. Very nice. Just a hint of oak and a little bit of spice. And the floral is on the backside of the fruit. The fruit is what is predominant. I really have to get past the fruit to get into that floral. That fruit is really strong in this one. Cheers. Night and day. Wow. Maybe because the rye is lower, I don't have as much spice. Certainly not as much pepper. I was hoping for a little bit more baking spice in absence of the rye. It's definitely sweeter. It's probably the same sweetness as OBSO. It's a nice sweetness. I've got a lot of fruit coming through. What I smelled came through on the palate. So a lot of light medium fruit, peaches, pears, maybe some apples in there. It's quite good. I really like the fruitiness of this particular recipe. Could be a hint sweeter and a hint more baking spice, I think would make it perfect. But this is good. This is definitely in my top 2 or 3, maybe top 2. Let's take another sip. With that rye being lower, it's got a lot smoother feel. Even though they're all 104, which to me is perfect. I wish I could buy every Four Roses in 104. That seems to be the perfect proof level for this bourbon so far. I really like the proof level. I don't need it. I don't need cask strength. We don't always need cask strength to get flavor. There's good flavor coming out of this. It's a good sipper. And on the finish, it's funny, where I didn't pick up the spice I'd like to have on the palate, I'm getting more baking spice in the finish. So the finish is actually nicer on the baking spice. I wish I just tasted it more up front. So OBSF and OESV are kind of like yin and yang. I think they probably go together really well. So I scored an 8.0 on the OESV and a 6.0 on the OBSF. I don't think we'll be seeing the OBSF again, but it was good, just not good enough for my palate. So please like this video, comment and share, and come back for episode 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to count them now. Come back for episode 4 where we'll be doing the OESK and the OESO, and we're getting closer and closer to that blind. So, as always, never drink and drive. Please drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time.